Lex, a jovial adolescent, harbored a lifelong aspiration of achieving renown as an adventurer. Driven by the desire to provide his family with a lavish existence, he departed his humble village and journeyed to the metropolis to enroll as an adventurer. However, his path in this world was fraught with difficulty, as the goddess had fashioned 9 distinct races, with humanity relegated to the lowest status. Consequently, they perpetually endured prejudice, a reality Light soon encountered firsthand. Immediately upon his arrival in the city, a baseman adventurer brusquely ordered him to clear the thoroughfare. Light could only offer an apology, despite not actually obstructing the path. Subsequently, he arrived at the Guild. There, he formally enrolled as an adventurer, and the receptionist informed him that all new recruits, such as himself, were initially assigned the front. She inquired if he possessed any special ability that might influence his evaluation, to which Light enthusiastically confirmed. He revealed his ability, named Unlimited Gacha, which allowed him to conjure items from thin air, adding that a mere explanation wouldn't suffice. Opting to showcase it, Light materialized his gacha device and promptly activated it. The gacha produced a card depicting a fork, and as Light let go of the card, a fork appeared on the table. To his dismay, the fork was severely warped, causing Light to panic. He assured the receptionist that his pulse were typically of higher quality. He promptly employed his skill a few more times, but the outcome remained consistent. He conjured a spoiled apple and a piece of stale, moldy bread. This display solidified the receptionist as believed that such a failure merited no higher than an threshold at actual craft compound. He then inquired about immediate job opportunities, and the receptionist directed him to the quest board. The board displayed all the simpler tasks, but Light grew visibly anxious just by looking at it. The receptionist quickly deduced that he was illiterate. Beyond his perceived ineptitude, which wasn't unexpected given humanity is generally low literacy rates, she informed him he could handle menial tasks. Tasks included hauling stone and collecting timber. Though such work offered significantly lower pay than other assignment tasks, Light agreed to it. Following a day of arduous labor, he earned just enough to secure a room, yet still depended on his gacha ability for sustenance. Despite this, he remains optimistic about his prospects. However, a group of basemen had different intentions, deliberately obstructing his path. They positioned themselves intentionally, causing him to collide with them. Their leader instantly began breathing Light for the collision and for soiling his attire. Before Light could reaction, the leader snatched his purse. Light, in a state of panic, pleaded for his money back, explaining he would be homeless without it. The wolfman, however, merely punched him acide, declaring that Light would cover his laundry expenses. The baseman then abandoned Light, sprawled in a muddy puddle. Passers-by, one after another, scornfully advised him to sleep in the squalid slums alongside his fellow humans. Light felt utterly despairing at this juncture, but THIN unexpectedly, hand extended towards him in assistance. He instinctively grasped the hand of the beautiful elf before him, only to realize a moment later that his own hand was caked in mud. Light recoiled, profusely apologizing to the elf for soiling her hand, but she reassured him it was no issue. She promised him no harm. Yet years of ingrained racism and prejudice prevented him from fully trusting her words. To demonstrate her sincerity, the elf woman abruptly knelt and embraced him, leaving Light utterly dumbfounded. Even as onlookers on the street derided the elf for demanding herself be aiding a human, she assisted Light in getting back okay. Behind the elf stood a diverse group, comprising individuals from various races. They introduced themselves as the adventuring party Concord of Tribes, clarifying that their group was specifically formed. Each member represented one of the species created by the goddess, and he had been seeking a human. Garu, the best man, introduced himself first. He was followed by the elf, Sasha will then informed Leiji about their other companions, Drago, the Dragonuti, and Diablo, the Demon. Diablo the Oni Oboro, Sion the Dark Elf, Nano the Dwarf, and Santor the Centaur. Garu reiterated that they had simply been searching for a human to finalize their party roster. Sion then elaborated, stating their group as purpose was to eradicate racism and foster a world of universal equality. Light found this proposition almost too ideal to be true, yet he couldn't decline such an apparently benevolent group, and thus, he eagerly became a member of the Concord of Three Beasts. Before long, they embarked on various adventures, with like profit to be the most vulnerable member of the team, often requiring rescue from monsters by Drago and Sasha. This cautioned him to exercise greater prudence, as a single blow from a monster could be fatal while it expressed remorse for his lack of caution. Nevertheless, Sasha began checking him for wounds, instructing him to remain behind the other. At Altimes, the rest of the group started playfully mocking Sasha, implying she was secretly infatuated with Leiji, and they play concerned for him. She blushed profusely as she clarified that her regard for him was strictly professional. As a fellow party member, Legan, feeling inadequate, lamented his inability to contribute beyond carrying their gear. However, Drago reassured him, stating that his talent for brewing excellent tea was a valuable contribution. Light was genuinely pleased with his affirmation. Here then, he jovially continued with the tea, venturing further into the dungeon. Before long, they arrived at an expansive open area. This area possessed a single point of entry and exit. The party members exchanged glances, then concluded it was the ideal location for their scheme. Unknowing of their intentions, Light began preparing to make way for the group. It was then that Drago approached him, informing him he was being dismissed from the party. Light struggled to comprehend this declaration. He questioned it, what transgression he had committed to warrant expulsion. And the biased man, Garu, responded that he was being let go due to his perceived lack of contribution. Everyone then began to verbally assault Legan, calling him worthless and foolish. Even Sasha displayed disdain towards him. The remaining party members proceeded to hurl insults not only at Lake, but also at the entire human race. Lake initially suspected this is some sort of joke, but he informed him that no one has the leisure to play pranks on someone as insignificant as a piece of garbage like him. He then questioned why they had been treating him so kindly until this point. Their response that their previous behavior was merely an acted. Drago explained that their superiors had noticed his unlimited gacha gift and believed they had the potential to become a maestro. This was the reason they instructed the Concord of Three Beasts to monitor him closely. However, once they ascertained that Light's gift was worthless and they should not be a maestro, they gave the command to eliminate him. Sasha expresses the most relief that he no longer have to tolerate Light's presence, stating that if he had indeed been a maestro, she would have been forced to marry him, and the mere thought of it repulses him. Light, Manuel, is utterly confused about the meaning of the word maestro. Drago then interjects, declaring that they have revealed enough information and must now finish him off before more adventurers arrive. Garu immediately mimics Wolverine, extending his metallic claws, and uses them to slash Light as fish. It is only at this moment that Light truly grasps the severity of his predicament, realizing there is no escape from this situation. In his desperation, they flees as quickly as possible, while the prejudiced individuals look at him, proclaiming that they will not allow him to get away. Sasha shoots an arrow through his leg, and as Light collapses to the ground, screaming. The racist elves comment that the sound of human screams is like music to their ears. Garu decides to inflict more pain on Light to make him scream further, and begins assaulting him, but Drago orders him to stop, explaining that he needs to make it appear as though the human did from a monster ambush. Garu obeys his command and prepares to deliver the final blow, but Light desperately crawls forward, clinging to his life. Suddenly, the ground beneath him begins to glow, and Light realizes that he is standing in the center of a teleportation circle. Drago notices it took and commands Garu to finish him off quickly. But before Garu can reach Light, the teleportation circle activates, whisking him away. However, Light's situation does not improve significantly even after being saved from the treacherous betrayers. The teleportation trap transports him to a random location within the dungeon, and Light knows that the instant a monster discovers him, he will be dead. He begins to recall memories of his family. As he questions what he did to deserve such betrayal, he reflects on how pleasantly everyone treated him before they decided to backstab him. He now understands that Birkin the Manor was merely a charity intended to earn his complete trust, and he ultimately revealed their true colors. He is consumed by fury and channels his rage into a powerful will to survive. He stands up, vowing to exact revenge on those scoundrels and tear them apart with his own hands. Before he can utter a more curses at them, Light hears a low growl emanating from behind him, and as he turns around, he finds a level 1,000 monster glaring at him. He panics upon seeing the creature, as it appears to be something straight out of a fairy tale. Light realizes that he has been teleported to the deepest flood of the dungeon, and he secretly acknowledges that he had a better chance of surviving his own party than this monster. As he wonders how he can possibly fight the creature, his thoughts drift to his ultimate gacha deity, and he decides to take a chance. He begins pressing the gacha button repeatedly, and then, unexpectedly, his seemingly ordinary gift transforms into something beyond his wildest imagination. A colossal magic circle materializes beneath him, and the gacha device starts undergoing a power effect. Light remains utterly bewildered. But just as the monster leaps towards him, the gacha roll is completed, and a level 9,999 might servant appears from it, demolishing the monster in an instant. Everything is over before Light can even blink. And then, the aura farming might begins walking towards him, signals before him and instantly heals his wounds, telling him that he could not bear to see his silky smooth skin injured. So she healed him without asking for permission. Light cannot believe that he is perfectly fine now. The Might then asks him for his name. He introduces himself as Light, and the Might becomes genuinely happy upon learning his name. She pledges by the Might a shroud of honor, swearing to serve him until death. Light tells her that it is all good, but she should at least reveal her own name first. The girl introduces herself as Mei, the ever-seeking Might, and informs Light that she originated from a super ultra rare card in his unlimited gacha. Light, however, refuses to believe that a level 999 might could emerge from his supposedly worthless gift. But Mai requests permission to see her appraisal skin on his gift, to discern its finer detail. He immediately grants her permission, and Mai activates her Sharingan, discovering that his abilities are hidden under an exceptionally strong concealment, rendering them invisible to anyone below her level. She tells Light that his ultimate gacha is far more useful. Can he purchase the charge it rolls? Are highly dependent on the mana density of his location, and as it turns out, here is another rarity class beyond my S. Super ultra rarity. Mai explains that the mana density on the surface is quite poor, but in the depths of the dungeon, the air is saturated with mana, which allowed her to be summoned. She commands Light as bravery in venturing into the dungeon as depths alone, to unleash the full potential of his gift. Fui, however, confesses that he is morally a loser who can't even get near the dungeon on his own. He begins to cry as he recounts to her how his party betrayed him in the dungeon. He starts lamenting about how they had deceptively promised to create a world free of discrimination, solely to trick him, and then vows to seek vengeance on them. Mai suddenly embraces him, stating that she cannot fully comprehend what he has endured. But she is prepared to fulfill his every wish, and eliminating the individuals who wronged him would be a simple task for her. Legend, however, forbids her from acting, not due to a benevolence on his part, but because he intends to exact his revenge personally. This is feasible at present, given his current weakness. He vows to inflict immense suffering upon them before their demise, and may once more kneels before him. She assures him that if he wishes to gain the strength necessary for his retribution, she will assist him in achieving it. Mai expresses her unwavering belief in his capabilities, and Light can only offer his gratitude. Nevertheless, he is content with merely a single, overpowered individual in his retinue. Yet was resolves to exploit the Dungeon as mana-abundant environment. Furthermore, he activates his unlimited Gacha system once more, summoning additional high-ranking Maidi to establish a kingdom. This kingdom will serve as the foundation for his elaborate vengeance. 3 years have elapsed since that pivotal day, and Light now presides over hundreds of Maidis. Within a grand palace he constructed, Mai remains constantly by his side, fulfilling the vow she made upon their first encounter. All the maids appear utterly captivated by him, cheering enthusiastically, delighted by his acknowledgement, while Mai instructs them to conduct themselves appropriately. He exits the castle and projects toward the local marketplace, where he is universally recognized. A vendor invites him for breakfast at his stall, while others inform him of a scarcity of snack fruits throughout the region. Light assures them he will address the issue promptly, so Mai advises him not to concern himself with such minor duties, as she will ensure the logistical challenge is resolved with utmost speed. Light comprehended that a novel system for managing logistics must be established, given that the populace of this area has multiplied several times over the past 3 years. He then inquires of Mai about the whereabouts of his remaining legendary summons, and Mai responds that Yuki, the best tamer, is occupied with meticulously charting the region surrounding the dungeon, and surveying the forest for a potential threat. Light contemplates the numerous monsters roaming the woodlands, but acknowledges, however, that the world present no challenge to a brilliant best tamer such as her. Mai proceeds by stating that Alan, the mage, is diligently striving to devise the unique magic required for his ambitious scheme. Light ponders whether Ellie will be capable of managing this task, given the intricate complexities inherent in the magic spell he requested her to formulate. Light then inquires about Nash, the vampire agent, who excels in close quarters combat but is somewhat lacking in intellectual prowess in other domains. Mai responds that she assigned Nash the duty of patrolling the castle grounds, a task designated to prevent her from nagging her less than active men, and to avoid any potential mischief. Legion, however, doesn't object to her presence, as she tends to inject more excitement into their surroundings. Shortly thereafter, they return to the castle, where Light is summoned by Jack, the final member of his 4 legendary companions, who inquire if Light is prepared for a training session. Mai appears slightly irritated and admonishes Jack that he ought to address Light using his appropriate title, Master. However, Jack, a self-proclaimed Sigda, dismisses such formalities as feminist nonsense. So he entirely disregards her. Light reassures Mai that it is acceptable, as he regards Jack more as an elder sibling, and then informs Mai that he intends to proceed to his training session with Jack immediately, within the training ground, but to prepare for a sparring match. With an explosive surge of speed, Light charges at his sumo, delivering a direct punch to his chiseled abdomen. Like as astonishing power forces Jack backward, Jack appears gratified by Light's maggot, asserting that an ordinary adventurer would have perished had they retrieved such a blow. However, he can withstand it, being constructed like a fortress and capable of absorbing an extraordinary amount of damage. They converge once more in the center of the arena, their fists clashing before they disengage. Leigh then unleashes a rapid succession of blows, which Jack deftly evades. Concurrently, Nash continues her patrol of the corridors, her vacant gaze wandering. When she is then approached by several other minds will begin to flatter her, asserting that they all feel secure. And knowing that Nash is consistently on patrol, ensuring no peril lurks unseen. Nash becomes ecstatic, precisely the reaction the mind is desired. They resolve to play a trick on her purpose. That she should proceed to lock the chambers to verify their security and confirm that nothing untoward is occurring within. Nash considers this an excellent suggestion and makes her way toward the bedroom. However, as she attempts to open the door, May emerges from inside. Nash questions May about her presence within Leigh's private quarters. Nothing that he should presently be engaged in training. May instantly begins to blush, asserting that she was merely attempting to tidy the room during his absence. Nash insisted that she must inspect the room for any hazards. Yet, before May could reprimand her, Nash steps inside and observes the disheveled bed and, with her characteristic lack of insight, declares that it appears as though someone had been occupying it, sniffing the pillow and tossing a bone. She then questions May as to whether she deliberately arranged it in such a manner. May opts to leverage Nash's naivety to her benefit, confidently asserting that this is her unique method of bed preparation. Nash is duly impressed and inquiring if she too might learn this technique, but May declines, stating that it is a proprietary trade secret she cannot yet disclose. At this point, Nash recalls that the other maid had requested her to deliver a message to May. Consequently, she produces a parchment and hands it to May. Wu comprehended that the other maids are staging a rebellion against her for monopolizing Leigh's private chambers and consistently preventing them from tidying it themselves. May reassures Nash not to be concerned, as she will personally address the other maids, and even offers Nash some small change to ensure her silence, which Nash gladly accepts before departing. She promptly makes her way to the market, browsing the various food items her new von Funds can afford. Ultimately, she settles on enjoying some soft, fluffy pancakes accompanied by fresh meal. With a cheerful stride, she heads back to the castle, spotting Yuki perched on a balcony, and then addresses her, inquiring if her forest task is complete. Yuki, exasperated by Nash's antithesis, reveals she has already finished the map May had requested. Yuki explains she is returned to hand over the map. Nash offers her congratulations before resuming her patrol responsibilities. Upon entering the throne room, she unleashes a loud, unrestrained scream within the gaudy space. With no one present to intervene, she then leaps onto the throne and begins tampering with it. She inadvertently snaps off a wing from an annual statue, immediately fearing May's potential wrath. Hastily, she reattaches the broken piece haphazardly before fleeing the throne room in a panic, heading directly to the training grounds. Leigh and Jack persist in their sparring until Jack proposes they confront they and head for the battle, prompting them to move towards the bathing area. Submerged in the enormous bathtub, Jack commences on his rapid acquisition of various skills. He asserts that Leigh possesses sufficient strength to render most dungeon creatures trivial opponents. In plain, had only a select few on the surface could pose a challenge. He nevertheless cautions Leigh that certain individuals remain. These individuals would seize an opportunity to utterly annihilate him. Like as the manor turns grave, reflecting on the betrayal he endured 3 years prior, he declares he will not rest until his vengeance is complete. Back in May's private quarters, she summons the four troublesome maids, demanding to know their issue as she recites their own letter back into them. Confronted by May, the four maids fall silent, at a loss for words. He offers apologies, explaining their actions were merely an attempt to show support. Understanding May's heavy workload, May instructs them to disregard her workload and concentrate on their own duties, rejecting their offer to clean Leigh's room. As punishment, She instead assigns them the task of cleaning the hallway leading to the throne room. The maids express surprise at this manual chore, protesting the hallway is excessive lengthy, but Mai insists they persist. She explains, this will occupy them while she and Light are away on a mission. Meanwhile, outside, Ness is captivated by a shop window display. She gazes longingly at a gauntlet she desires but cannot afford, and while doing so, she unexpectedly encounters Ellie. Ellie inquires about Ness's fortunes, to which Ness gestures at the gauntlet before questioning Ellie's early return. Given that Ellie was meant to oversee the ongoing new construction, Ellie explains that the project is progressing without issues. This allowed her to take a brief respite. They quickly fall into an argument about who holds a more significant position with Light. Ellie informs Ness that she is directly integrated into Light's developing revenge scheme, a privilege Ness does not share. Ellie further asserts she recently enjoyed a delightful evening, sharing tea with Light and discussing their advancements. And states that their next encounter will involve a private dinner she plans to arrange. Ness expresses her own desire to share tea with the master, then informs Ali of her expertise in close quarters combat, offering assistance should Ali ever need it. Ali smiles, assuring Ness she will certainly take her upon that offer eventually, and with that, Ness resumes her mundane duties. Inside the castle, the four maids are engaged in a conspiracy against Mai, asserting that Mai is no better than the furious Desman, mustachioed man from Germain, contemplating whether to secretly report her actions to Light. However, they reconsider, as none wish to injure her fury. On Mai can observe that Light a strong affection for Mai stems from the fact that this was his initial summon the poor hired might interjected giving a talk as a second to Tolmer. He will finally summon Yuki, implying that Mai and Light spent 2 entire months alone together within the dungeons. Overwhelmed by intense jealous, they begin rolling on the floor and exhibiting bizarre behavior born of envy. Subsequently, they resolve to perform some voodoo magic, sitting at a table and chanting in an attempt to eliminate Mai from the situation. Unluckily for them, Mai overhears their entire scheme and enters their room, cornering them once more. The maids instantly begin apologizing, asserting they were merely a bit jealous and never truly meant to work. Mai instructs them to chase their strange fantasies, explaining that during the period between her summoning and Yuki's, Light was preoccupied. He was diligently acquiring all possible knowledge about magic and practicing every martial article, leaving no time for other activities. This explanation somewhat reassures the maids, while Mai stated she returned because she sensed she had been overly harsh with them, but now understands she hadn't been, and thus instructs them to clean the throne room as well. Given that they clearly have ample time to engage in voodoo magic, entirely at Mai's discretion, the maids were left with no alternative but to comply with her command, cleaning the entire throne room. They resolved to remain silent this time, to prevent further complications. However, while dusting the throne, the grand-hired maid, in her clumsiness, accidentally dislodges the angel wing piece previously broken by Ness. The fragment clatters to the floor, horrifying the maids. Believing themselves responsible and dreading Mai's reaction, they ponder their fate. The following morning, Light makes his way into the dungeon. Upon his arrival, he discovered Ness, Ellie, and Yuki were already present, so he offered them a morning greeting. As Ness and Ellie's usual squabble commenced, a creature abruptly materialized from the darkness, causing Light to instantly freeze as he recognized it as a hellhound. Although he was significantly more powerful now, the traumatic memories from a past encounter continued to plague him. The mere sight of the creature always caused a chilling dread to wash over him. His companions, however, showed no signs of apprehension. Instead, they were all incensed that the hellhound had disturbed Light's composure. Ness, in particular, prepared to carve it into fragments. Manuel, Ellie requested authorization to completely wipe out the entire Hellhound lineage from existence. And Yuki must about whether she could locate hell itself and hurl the creature straight into its most profound abysses. The sheer intensity of their collective presence alone sent the monster retreating without whimper. It quickly dawned on the beast due to how thoroughly outclassed it was, Legend. However, Manageto saw his companions as he steadily recovered his own self-possession. Hetan deliberately advanced towards the creature, offering it a gentle palsy. He understood that even if he were to issue a command in jest, his formidable summons would, in fact, annihilate the entire species from existence. Following this, he turned his attention to his group, stating that they must ascend to the surface, as their scheme for retribution was set to commence that very day. However, this marks the conclusion of the present video. Don't forget to show your support by liking and subscribing to the channel. We appreciate you watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next installment.